We need to stop this, Mon Mothma said, looking over the dozen senators gathered in the conference chamber. As senators of the Republic, we've maintained peace for 1,000 years. Now we must take a stand against this act of aggression. A low murmur passed through the chamber, cautious approval, tinged with uncertainty. Senator Onaconda Farr cleared his throat, closing his eyes for a moment before speaking. I agree in principle, Senator Mon Mothma, he said in a sad tone. But the situation is far from simple. Rhodia isn't far from Rune. I know how Kong rules his planet, and Rhodia already felt the brutality of the rivers. He shook his head. I'm also well aware of how deeply slavery is entrenched there. You all know I supported Pax in every debate, even when they ended in failure. He sighed wearily. We must make it clear that we oppose the violent resolution of this crisis, without appearing to support Rune or the horrors Kong allows on his world. Not a simple task, Bail Organa agreed. In crises like this, people gravitate towards extreme positions. Eriadu already voiced support for military action, and even those who remain silent condemn anyone who suggests stopping the Tau from striking back. Padme shook her head, uncertainty plain on her face. I respect your desire for a peaceful solution, Mon Mothma, she said, meeting her friend's gaze. Truly, but it doesn't feel right to support Rune in this situation, even in the name of peace. I'm with Senator Amidala, Garm Bel Iblis added, giving her a solemn nod. We may not like it, but this is retaliation for a brutal slaver raid. He turned back to the Senator of Chandrila. Like it or not, Mon, the Tau hold the moral high ground. A dark giggle escaped Tal Merrick as he shook his head, clearly amused. Are you certain your position isn't influenced by the current talks between the Tau and Corellia? He asked smoothly. I hear they are planning a joint venture, perhaps even a new shipbuilding corporation. His thin smile widened, eyes glinting. There is a fortune to be made in deals like that. Bel Iblis actually laughed. Come now, Merrick. I am a Corellian. You know our reputation. We don't follow conventions. To say the least, chuckled Avisai, the aging senator of Raxus Secundus. I, for one, don't doubt you're acting of your own free will, Iblis. I doubt anyone in the Corellian's government could stop you, short of physical force. And even then, Senator Philo added with a small chuckle, they probably fail. A ripple of quiet chuckles moved through the gathered senators. Merrick, notably, did not join them. Maintaining peace in the galaxy is the highest duty of any senator, Ken Robb said, leaning back in her seat. But I fear our voices alone won't be enough to persuade the Tau. Why do you think that? Padme asked. A dozen senators stand in this room already, many from prominent worlds. Our voices carry weight. Within the Republic, perhaps. Senator Horrocks Ryder replied, his aged scales glinting under the lights. But they carry far less power with the Tau. The Commonwealth isn't dependent on intergalactic trade like most powers. No threat of sanctions will sway them. They are also largely disconnected from wider galactic culture, Lexi Dio added, shaking her head. Even the presence of a Jedi won't intimidate them. We have no real leverage in the current negotiations."
"Quite."
Ryder nodded.
"They already gained what they wanted from the treaties we just signed. The Furious Net Compact, as people have begun calling it."
He sighed.
Article 8 clearly states the compact is not an alliance, ensuring neither side can be dragged into a war. But Articles 3 and 5 legitimize retaliation against Rune, especially given the evidence they presented and the formal ultimatum issued to Kong's regime. On paper, at least, the Commonwealth offered a non-violent solution.
"The unclear status of Rune matters as well,"
said the mammalian senator Aisrin Oth-Hain, rubbing his chin.
"Kong and his regime maintain close ties with several Republic member worlds, something that could be seen as a loose alliance. But Rune itself isn't a member of a Republic. We have no jurisdiction there."
A grim silence settled over the chamber. The pact they had just signed was meant to ensure stability and security, not to become a gateway for Tau expansion. A realization struck Padme, and she looked up. "You think they knew?" she asked. All eyes turned towards her. "Knew what?" Organa asked. Silent Tide said the investigation concluded shortly after the compact was finalized, didn't she? Padme said slowly. What if the Tau knew earlier? What if they already knew Kong and Rune were responsible and quietly shaped the treaty so it would legitimize their military response, while delegitimizing regimes engaged in piracy or slavery? The senators exchanged knowing looks. "Damn it, we were outplayed," Bel Iblis muttered. "I suspected some sections of the compact left the room to maneuver, but they played it perfectly. Every article they will use to justify the attack on Rune is built on the precedents established by the Republic and the Jedi Order themselves." Article 7, Section 4. Bail Organa read aloud from his datapad. The signatories affirm that stable governance, respectful of sentient dignity, is a prerequisite for lasting peace. Subsection A. Signatories may intervene with the goal of establishing such governance in a manner similar to that of a Jedi Order. He looked up grimly. They were careful to cite the Jedi and the Republic as precedent. If the Senate tried to denounce this, it would invalidate decades of similar interventions and expose the Senate as hypocritical. Mon Mothma finished, sinking back into her seat and rubbing her brow. They legalized military intervention before announcing it. Clever, Tal Merrick muttered under his breath, then noticed the looks around the chamber. Insidious, but clever." "Insidious will do," Keen Rob said, shaking her head. "What about the Chancellor? Surely Palpatine could intervene." "Palpatine? Don't be ridiculous," Avi scoffed. "He will stay on the fence, as always, claiming balance while quietly playing all sides to gather more support." Padme frowned. "That's a little unkind." "Perhaps," Avi replied, not unkindly. "But true. I know you value Palpatine because of your shared history. I am not that sentimental."
Time and place.
Senator Aisrin cleared his throat.
Whatever our differences, We agree on one thing. We must intervene. We must convince the Tau to hold their plans.
Indeed, the Senate won't be enough, Philo added. As already noted, the FuriousNet Compact effectively legalized their strike on Rune. With the evidence they presented, growing support and time running short, we will have to act quickly and directly.
Padme nodded and rose to her feet. Then we are going to the Commonwealth Embassy, she said firmly. Now.
A murmur of agreement swept through the chamber. Mon Mothma, who had seemed defeated only moments earlier, stood as well.
Agreed. Let's go, she said. Perhaps if we stand together, we can still stop this madness.
My apologies for the wait, Senators,
the Shazvre said, inclining his head slightly.
Poro Nyatel awaits you inside.
Padme disliked how calm and composed the Fire Warrior appeared, given the circumstances. As if to reinforce her unease, another bottle flew from the crowd of protesters towards the Tau guards, only to bounce harmlessly off an energy shield projected by a hovering drone. Only hours had passed since the official announcement of the ultimatum, and already protesters had gathered outside the Tau embassy, holographic signs, "Stop the expansion" and "Stop the war" burned brightly above the agitated crowd. Padme was surprised by how many had come. Though, truth be told, she wished those calling for peace would refrain from hurling bottles at heavily armed fire-cast soldiers. She glanced at the Coruscant police lines, holding the crowd at a respectful distance from the boundary-marking embassy territory. Not that it mattered much. A shimmering energy barrier surrounded the building, reinforced by fire warriors and their drones. As they waited, Padme studied the Tau guards more closely. Their silence, discipline, and complete lack of response to insults and projectiles would have been unsettling enough. But it was their helmets that truly disturbed her. Enclosed, featureless, save for glowing vertical mechanical eyes, they looked more like machines than living beings. "We understand, Shazvra," Mon Mothma said calmly. "We did arrive uninvited and without notice."
"You are not the only ones,"
the Fire Warrior replied in an even, emotionless tone.
"Are you referring to the protesters?"
Organa asked, frowning.
"No, sir,"
the Shazvra said, stepping aside.
"Please enter. Poro awaits you."
The senators passed the silent warrior and moved together toward the embassy entrance. "I don't think he was joking," Organa muttered, still frowning.
"I don't think fire warriors know how to joke,"
Bel Iblis muttered.
"I've seen droids with more personality."
Padme was about to join their quiet exchange when the words caught in her throat. Someone was exiting the embassy. Someone she recognized.
"Lot Dodd!"
Onaconda Farr said in surprise, quickly stepping closer to Padme. "What is he doing here?" Before any of them could voice their furies, the Neimoidian representative of the Trade Federation finally noticed them. Which was impressive, both because he nearly walked straight into them without looking up, and because he was so consumed by his rage that he might have not noticed anything short of the floor collapsing beneath his feet.
"You are wasting your time, senators!"
Dot snapped as he stormed away from the embassy.
"The Tau have no respect for our authority, none at all!"
he shouted while passing them, each step heavy with fury. Blasted outsiders!
The senators watched him go, stunned by the outburst. Lord Dodd was known for many things, but public displays of rage were not among them. "What was that about?" Lexidio asked, no one in particular. "I suspect," Avi Sign said slowly, drawing a deep breath. "We are about to find out." They turned back toward the embassy and approached the entrance, where a Tau awaited them, a female of a water caste, one of the junior diplomats who had arrived with the rest of the embassy staff.
"Greetings, Senators of the Republic,"
Saimal said with a low bow.
"I understand that you have come to speak with Ambassador Silent Tide?"
Padme narrowed her eyes. Beautiful Spider, as her name suggested, was indeed beautiful. And yet, despite the warm smile and the graceful, alluring form that had caught the attention of more than a few senators this past week, men and women alike, the former queen felt deeply uneasy in her presence. Beautiful, yes, but a spider all the same. A venomous one, luring its prey ever deeper into its web. "What we have," Bel Iblis said firmly, unmoved by her charm. "Will she receive us?"
"How could we refuse?"
Saimal replied pleasantly.
An anti-war delegation of prominent senators cannot simply be turned away. Doing so would only inflame tensions.
Padme stiffened. They knew, or had at least deduced their purpose. Not that it was difficult. Many of those present were well known for their opposition to war. Unfortunately, not all of them managed to hide their discomfort as well as she or Bel Iblis did. Beautiful Spider's eyes glinted as she noticed their unease. She enjoyed it greatly, and the realization sent a shiver down Padme's spine. The Watercast were master diplomats, she could not deny that. In a mere month, they had won over hundreds of senators. Yet, beneath their polish and charm lurked something darker. An obsession born of singular devotion to their duty. "Very well," Bail Organa said evenly. "Will you lead us to her?"
"Of course. Please, follow me."
Saimal said, turning and leading them deeper into the embassy. As they entered, Padme allowed herself a moment to take it all in. She had visited shortly after the embassy opened, but it was clear the Earthcast had been busy, reshaping the Coruscanti structure to suit Tau aesthetics. Native plants from distant worlds lined the halls, and decorations from every sept and allied species adorned the space. They had transformed the building into a monument to their own greatness, a testament to their prosperity and to their military might. She froze when she saw what stood in the glass display near the staircase leading to the upper level. She wasn't the only one who slowed, stunned by the sight. Onaconda leaned in. A potent statement. "That's an understatement, Uncle Ono," Padme whispered back. A suit of Space Marine armor stood on display for all to see. The placard identified it as belonging to the Star Executioner's chapter. Its ceramite, painted blue and red, heavy with the symbols of iconography of a chapter. The markings denoted a warrior of high rank, a captain, according to the Tau. Holograms and screens surrounded the display, showing the super soldiers of a terrifying Imperium of Man in battle, moving faster than eye could follow, delivering destruction on a scale almost impossible to grasp. But there were over-recordings as well. The Tau response, battlesuits advancing under concentrated fire, precision strikes, and finally, the moment this Marine had fallen. A rail rifle shot, clean through both of his hearts. Padme could see straight through the armor thanks to the gaping hole torn through the chest plate, right where one wing of a golden, two-headed eagle had once rested. Though it was nothing more than an empty shell, she shivered as she looked into the helmet's yellow lenses. There was malice there, or at least the echo of it, as though the dead warrior's spirit still clung to the armor, his hatred for all who did not serve the Emperor lingering in the air itself. She tore her gaze away, forcing the feeling aside. Anaconda rested a hand on her shoulder. "All things considered," he murmured, "we are fortunate that Tau ended up in our galaxy, and not those madmen." "I couldn't agree more," Padme said softly as they continued up the stairs. The embassy buzzed with activity. The ultimatum had clearly caused a stir, and the staff moved with purpose through the halls. Yet, there was no panic, no hushed arguments or raised voices. Everything seemed orderly, deliberate, as if it were all unfolding exactly as planned. She barely had time to dwell on the thought before they entered a spacious chamber flooded with natural light. Tall windows, illuminated walls inlaid with polished stone, gold and silver, woven together into intricate, unfamiliar patterns. Silent Tide stood at the center of the chamber, speaking quietly with Colleen Pax. Both turned as the senators entered. Niatel wearing a welcoming smile, Pax answering them with a look of open hatred. "Ah, senators, welcome!" The Commonwealth's ambassador said warmly, spreading her arms. "How may I be of service?" Mon Mothma stepped forward, posture straight, voice clear and composed. "As senators of the Republic, we ask the Commonwealth to reconsider military action against Rune for the sake of preserving peace in the galaxy." Silent Tide's expression did not change, her face revealing nothing. Pax, however, made no effort to hide his disgust. "Shame on you, Senator Mon Mothma," he spat. "You are a disgrace to the very idea of representing the people." Mon Mothma flinched, but held her ground. "I understand your frustration, Mr. Pax, but—" "You don't understand a thing!" The old man roared, eyes blazing as he swept his gaze across the assembled senators. "All of you come from wealthy, prosperous worlds. You live in comfort and luxury. And you come here to stop the righteous liberation of Rune? To prevent the long overdue downfall of a tyrant?" He drew breath to continue, but stopped as Silent Tide raised a hand in a calming gesture. Pax trembled with barely contained fury, yet he obeyed. "Saimal?" Niatel said, turning to the Ottercast diplomat who had led them inside. "Please arrange some tea for Mr. Pax and our guests."
"As you wish, Horo."
Beautiful Spider replied with a bow. Silent Tide turned to Pax. "Please, take a seat. I know this is difficult, but we must remain civil." Pax grunted and nodded. "You are right. Apologies for the outburst," he said stiffly. "It just... First the protests, then that bastard Lot Dot, and now senators. Senators I once considered allies, friends even." His voice hardened. "All revealed as self-serving cowards." That hurt far more than Padme expected. She actually winced, stunned that such words came from someone she had once called a friend. Senator Philo opened his mouth to respond, clearly angered by the accusation, but what did Representative Lot Dot want? Garmbeb Iblis asked instead, his tone sharp, with curiosity. "We were quite surprised to see him leaving the embassy, fuming and hurling curses as he went." "He came with a request similar to yours," Niatel replied. "Or rather, a demand." She glanced at Pax. "Wouldn't you agree?" The old man snorted, clearly unimpressed by the Neimoidian. "Yes. Apparently the Trade Federation is perfectly content with Kong ruling Rune so long as he continues to support their business interest in the region," Pax said, already taking a seat. Dot threatened that the Trade Federation would defend Rune if the Commonwealth proceeds with its attack. He claimed they were prepared to deploy a full fleet. The senators exchanged stunned looks. This was not the kind of information one shared so openly or so casually. Padme in particular felt unsettled. Not because the Trade Federation was threatening force against a rival, but because by some bitter twist of fate, they now found themselves on the same side. The realization left a sour taste in her mouth. "Oh, and they accused the Commonwealth of hiring Elder Corsairs to attack their assets," Silent Tide added smoothly. "They blamed the recent destruction of one of their merchant fleets near Mont Lavar on us." Padme's eyes widened. She wasn't alone. The Tau ambassador's casual tone made the revelation even more unsettling. It felt as though they were deliberately ignoring diplomatic norms, and that alone gave her pause. Were they truly laying everything bare, or carefully choosing what to reveal? Or was it all a distraction? She couldn't tell. "From your tone, I assume you denied the accusations," Bel Iblis said after clearing his throat. Niatel laughed softly, the sound like chiming bells. "Naturally," she shook her head. "We warned the Senate extensively about how dangerous certain factions from our galaxy could be. We issued additional warnings the moment we confirmed that Elder Corsairs had arrived alongside us. And yet, the instant they strike, we are accused of conspiring with them." She took a seat beside Pax. "I suppose such accusations were inevitable, no matter how baseless they are." A small drone drifted toward her, balancing 3 steaming cups of tea atop its flat, disc-like body. She lifted one with a smile. "But enough of that," she said. "Please, sit. Tell me, what is it you truly want, and why should I consider granting your request?" More drones followed, offering tea to the senators. They settled into seats, accepting the cups as the room grew quieter. Mon Mothma cleared her throat once more. Ambassador Niatel, Mon Mothma began. We understand how tense the situation is, and that Commonwealth is prepared to take military action against Rune and Kong. But the senators present believe that military conflict is not the solution. She held her gaze. We believe the Commonwealth discarded diplomacy too quickly, moving straight to an ultimatum and the threat of force. That path endangers peace across the galaxy. The Republic has maintained peace for nearly 1,000 years, Bail Organa added, and as its senators, we are committed to preserving it. Niatel nodded slowly, as though weighing the words. Pax grimaced, fury barely contained. Saimal let out a soft giggle.
I do wonder.
Spider said gently, malice hidden beneath her pleasant tone.
Is there any price you would not pay to preserve peace?
Her eyes settled on Organa.
Is there a line you would not cross, Senator Organa?
Sigh? Silent Tide warned quietly, then turned back to the senators. I understand your concerns, and it pains me that we have reached this point. But as I stated before the Senate, the Commonwealth was the victim of an unprovoked attack. Kong started this war. We intend to end it.
Many see this as an escalation,
Horrocks' rider said wearily. More than riding a peaceful colony and enslaving thousands? Silent Tide asked, tilting her head. We understand the desire to fight back, Padme interjected. Stars be my witness, I understood it better than most. 5 years ago, I fought for Naboo when the Senate was paralyzed by endless debate. But even then, I pursued diplomacy first. I tried to resolve the crisis without bloodshed. She met the Tau diplomat's eyes. War was the last result. You are a watercast, a diplomat. Why are you not fighting to resolve this conflict peacefully? Silent Tide fell silent for a moment, then exhaled slowly. This is nothing like the Naboo crisis, she said. What happened to your world was, at its core, an internal conflict within the Republic, a dispute between two of its own members. She shook her head. That is not the case here. The Commonwealth and Rune are both independent powers. We are not members of the Republic, nor subjects to its authority. This conflict cannot be resolved through Senate debate. No matter how many senators voice their objections, you have no jurisdiction over Rune or over us. This crisis will not be solved by politicians.
but it could be solved by diplomats,
Aishren Othain insisted.
As Senator Amidala pointed out, you are watercast, the caste of diplomats.
His voice hardened.
Why are you not doing your duty and seeking a peaceful resolution to this crisis?
Saimal giggled, amused, and Niatel let out a quiet breath, seemingly disappointed. What is so amusing? Tal Merrick asked, narrowing his eyes. Is falling at your own duty a joke to you? Saimal shook her head, still smiling.
Because we did find a peaceful solution.
Beautiful Spider replied.
The ultimatum, the bloodless solution.
Understand this, Silent Tide interjected before any senator could protest. The only reason the Commonwealth offered Rune an ultimatum at all is because the Ethereal Supreme supported representatives of the Water Caste in the High Elemental Council. Were it not for the wisdom of Aun Va, there would have been no ultimatum. The Commonwealth would have launched a full assault without a warning. The senators were stunned. This, Padme murmured after a moment, this is the extent of the Commonwealth's diplomatic solution? Silent Tide nodded without hesitation. Yes, I'm sorry to inform you, but the High Council's decision is final. Kong will either accept our terms or suffer the consequences of his actions. Suffer? Mon Mothma's voice trembled. You mean military action, an invasion? The people of Rune will suffer. People will die! She almost cried out. The ambassador's expression shifted, taking on the air of a teacher addressing a student far too naive to have been admitted to her class. Senator Mon Mothma, this is war. Silent Tide said coldly, people losing their lives should be expected. Most importantly, people are already suffering. Both the citizens of Rune and our citizens who were enslaved, they suffer right now. She rose, her presence suddenly radiating a quiet menace none of them had anticipated. Every hour spent debating or delaying, our people continue to bleed. You might be willing to let them beg for mercy that will never come, but we are not. The Water Caste knows when to stand back and let the warriors do their duty. Something I had hoped you would understand, she said, shaking her head in quiet disappointment.
Quite.
Sai Mal added.
You speak of preserving peace, yet I can name countless events where diplomacy was abandoned, and the Jedi were sent to resolve the problem.
She turned to Padme Amidala.
Your presence here is the most disappointing of all. I've heard tales of a brave young queen who faced an overwhelming enemy, escaped their clutches with Jedi aid, denounced the impotent chancellor of this republic, returned to her world, forged a military alliance, and launched a daring mission to capture the occupier personally.
Beautiful Spider tilted her head, eyes sharp.
I do wonder, what would that queen say to the senator who now stands before me?
Padme felt her blood boil. Are you accusing me of cowardice? She demanded. After everything you just said about my actions during the Naboo crisis?
People change.
Sai Mal replied, tilting her head.
Perhaps that fire of bravery has burnt out, leaving nothing behind.
Padme clenched her teeth, ready to fire back, until she saw Pax's expression. He agreed with Beautiful Spider. Worse, he was disappointed in her. That hollow, wounded look, the face of a man convinced he had been betrayed by friends and allies, felt like a hand around her throat. The words she meant to say died unspoken. That's enough, Porel. Silent Tide cut in, her voice sharp, enough to slice through marble. My apologies. Beautiful Spider forgets her manners at times. She took a steadying breath, her warmer expression returning. But I regret to inform you, Senators, you have come on a hopeless mission. The decision stands. The Commonwealth is going to war. And evil men should fear the day when good men go to war. A new voice said from the side of the chamber. All eyes turned as Seeker Lifesight entered, Ashenblade and Karkoshva close behind. Silent Tide and Beautiful Spider immediately rose and bowed their heads. The senators followed suit, but Aunion lifted a hand, dismissing the gesture. "Please remain seated," he said calmly, a serene smile on his face. "I must say, I am pleasantly surprised. Your desire to seek a peaceful solution is inspiring." "Teacher?" Silent Tide said softly, her confidence suddenly faltering. "Oh, do not misunderstand me, Poro Niatel," Seeker replied. "I still believe their views are misguided, seeking peace with someone like Kong." He stepped closer, his bladed staff tapping softly against the floor. "But the very act of seeking peace at all, that's remarkable. In our previous galaxy, so few thought that way. The Tau were among the rare few who practice diplomacy. Yet here it is commonplace." He nodded thoughtfully. "It warms my heart to see so many choosing dialogue over valiance." Padme shook herself free of her stillness. "Then," she began. The Seeker gently shook his head. He moved to the center of the chamber, making a series of practice spins and arcs with his bladed staff. His movements were fluid, almost dance-like, flowing from one strike to the other until he halted mid-swing. "This staff is a symbol of my authority," he said quietly. "Note that both blades face the same direction. With one side I can kill, with the other I can merely incapacitate." He shifted the staff as he spoke, demonstrating each possibility. The intent behind the strike matters more than the weapon itself. Knowing when to strike, how to strike, or when not to strike at all, that is the mark of true wisdom. He turned to the senators, his gaze steady, his words rolling over them like a calm but unstoppable tide. "In this, our kind is much like the Jedi. We know when to speak and when to draw our blades." He relaxed, once more using his staff as a walking stick, all its deadly potential seeming to vanish in an instant. "The Republic knows this as well," he continued, his silver eyes piercing everyone present. "Throughout your history, in times of crisis, you have deployed the Jedi Order as your blades, again and again." His gaze hardened slightly. "Tell me, why should the privilege of using force against evil be reserved solely for the Republic?" His presence was overwhelming. There was such power, such certainty in his gaze that even senators seasoned in diplomacy and political maneuvering found themselves unable to speak. Until Padme broke the silence. "It's not that," she said, her voice cutting cleanly through the ethereal's aura of authority. "We don't seek to deny the Commonwealth the right to defend itself. What concerns us is that the Tau rejected the possibility of a peaceful solution." Her words gave the others courage. "Your ultimatum is not something Kong will accept," Mon Mothma added. "But there is hope for peace," Bail Organa said. A way to limit suffering, a dialogue that could prevent unnecessary deaths. The Seeker studied them carefully, weighing their words on the unseen silver scales of his judgment. His eyes flickered briefly to Pax, accompanied by a subtle hand gesture, before turning to the senators. "And you are confident you can achieve this?" he asked. "If we work together," Padme said, nodding with growing resolve. "It will require cooperation, the Commonwealth, Rune, and the Republic acting together to preserve peace." "And how do you propose to accomplish that?" the Seeker asked. "By bringing all sides to the negotiating table," Mon Mothma replied. "The Commonwealth and Rune as parties to the conflict, and the Republic as mediator." "I will travel to Rune and speak with Kong personally," Bail Organa said firmly. "I will convince him to negotiate." "I will join you," Avi Sign added with a nod. "Kong will listen to a senator from the Outer Rim." "Then I will come as well," Ken Robb said with confidence. "Together we will make him listen." "Then what will be the first team?" Senator Philos said, nodding before turning to Mon Mothma. "You should remain here on Coruscant. You have many supporters here, and your presence will do the most good. You have my support."
"And mine as well,"
Horrocks Rider added firmly. Mon Mothma looked conflicted, the weight of staying behind evident, but she nodded. "Very well. Who will travel to the Commonwealth?" Padme didn't hesitate. She stepped forward. "I will go. My diplomatic barge has a very fast hyperdrive. I can reach the Commonwealth within 2 days," she declared. "I shall join you," Onaconda Farr said with a determined nod. "I will come as well," Garm Bel Iblis added, smiling. "A Corellian senator may prove useful during the negotiations." Padme turned to the Seeker, who surprised her by looking instead at Ashenblade. There was a brief, silent exchange between them before he returned his gaze to the group. "If that is your intention," the Seeker said, "I request that you take me and my companions with you. The task of Elemental Council is complete, and many members intend to return to the Commonwealth. We had been organizing transport when you arrived, but traveling with you would simplify matters." Padme furrowed her brow at the proposal. "Can I expect that you will put in a good word for us?" "I would have done so regardless," the Seeker assured. "But if you seek a more direct benefit, my presence aboard your ship will ensure no one slows you down. More importantly, I will personally request that Aunva receive and hear you. This I promise." He placed a hand over his heart. Padme nodded, sensing that this might indeed work. "Who will join you?" she asked. "Harkosh Va, Ashenblade, Dane Marek, and Lina Voss. The rest will remain on Coruscant as embassy staff," the Seeker replied swiftly. "That is more than acceptable," the former queen said, resolute. "Then we are agreed," Bel Organa said, scanning the room and noting the nods of approval. "Let's inform the Chancellor and prepare. We must depart as soon as possible." And with those final words, everything became a blur, as senators rushed in all directions, each doing their best to prevent a war. Padme left the embassy filled with hopeful thoughts about the future, about the possibility of peace. She failed to notice the seeker watching her through the tall window as she departed. His eyes, cold and silver, followed her every step. Some people must relearn the same lessons, he said quietly, disappointment clear in his voice. I truly hoped she would stand with us. Silent Tide agreed, standing nearby. Of all the senators of this republic, she should have understood. It seems I underestimated the influence Organa and Mothma still have over her. I think it's trauma, Pax said, staring into his cup. Padme will never admit it, but the Battle of Naboo scarred her deeply. She is afraid of allowing such carnage to happen again, if she believes she can stop it. I can't tell whether she is a hopeless idealist or simply naive. Ashenblade shook his head. Either way, we've secured a transport. Much faster than expected. Harkosh Va rumbled in agreement. You should have time to join the Avenger contingent. The massive reptilian continued, turning to the two newcomers. And you too rejoin your mistress on the battlefield. And not a moment too soon. Dane Marek chuckled. Just in time for a new war. Good. I was growing weary of all this quiet. He tapped the hilt of his power sword. It will be good to draw this blade in anger once more.
You think they'll ask for Jedi escorts?
Lina asked, stepping up beside the window.
I've heard senators sometimes do.
I suspect they will. Silent Tide nodded. Which will only serve our cause. Let the galaxy see Jedi wasting time negotiating with tyrants, while the Tau take decisive action. Hoping Amidala will ask for someone specific? Lifesides asked, a faint smile crossing his lips as he glanced at Lina. The young psyker blushed, then shook her head.
No, Anakin isn't on Coruscant anyway.
Ah, yes. He and Kenobi were dispatched to deal with a crisis on Radnor, weren't they? Dane mused, rubbing his chin. I wonder if they will manage to resolve that one on their own. Perhaps. Lifesight said with a small shrug. Time will tell. For now, we must prepare and send word to the Commonwealth. His silver eyes hardened slightly. They need to be ready. Just a small thing before we move on. I wanted to once again thank everyone who decided to donate to the Star Wars X Warhammer 40k art budget. For the sake of upcoming Battle of Rune and the finale of Season 1. Several art pieces have already been created and several more are on the way. However, the gallery can always grow, so though the goal was reached, and the final battle will have quite a bit of art, this can always expand. In fact, in the name of expanding the gallery and introduce more diversity in terms of art style, I've commissioned several new artists. So when the time comes, you will enjoy the art of creators you already know, and new ones who contributed into this great project. So, if you are willing, go to Ko-fi and donate to the art budget. Remember, it's thanks to your donations this art gallery is free of AI slop, and we can together support real artists. And as a teaser of things to come, of a grand finale of Season 1, I will show you a small part of a new piece made by 3D Vincents. Look! Hair on arm and a chest! Is this what you wanted to see? Is this the content you came here for? A link in the description and pinned comment below. Intermission over. I'm glad to hear it, Representative Lord Dodd. Kong smiled, flashing perfectly white teeth. Ron will not forget that the Trade Federation chose to stand in defense of our sovereignty. Of course, Governor, the Neimoidian replied, returning the smile. And the Trade Federation will expect additional opportunities once this crisis is resolved. You can count on it. They exchanged brief nods, and the hologram flickered out. Beside Kong let out a quiet, satisfied breath as he leaned back in his chair. Things were falling into place. His comrade, however, was far less at ease. Ravax paced back and forth across the chamber, muttering under his breath, his agitation souring the mood. Calm yourself, Ravax, Kong said evenly. You are a warlord, not a schoolgirl. Act like one. The crimson Trandoshan shot him a murderous glare, but Kong didn't even flinch. He had dealt with scum and killers long enough not to react to every threat. He merely raised a critical eyebrow, and the warlord's expression softened. Ravax stepped closer, his new mechanical left arm twitched, its crude grafting obvious, attached quickly and without finesse. This has escalated far beyond what we anticipated, he hissed. The ultimatum, the fact that they broke Vrozak, it is unfortunate. Kong cut in smoothly, waving a dismissive hand. But it is also an opportunity. He rose from his chair, pacing with renewed energy. The Commonwealth revealed their hand too early and too openly. They challenged those who rule the Outer Rim, announced their intent to expand, to claim worlds already belonging to other powers. His smile widened, and they chose Rune as their first target. He spread his arms slightly. In doing so, they made many enemies. Enemies who are now uniting to stop them, and they are all gathering here, under my banner. Ravax didn't share his enthusiasm. Don't grow too confident, he growled, glancing down at his mechanical arm with open disdain. I made that mistake, and paid dearly for it. The Tau are more dangerous than these fools realize. Worse, they will exploit our greatest weakness. Kong sighed, irritated. Lack of centralized command, Ravax continued. This is what doomed us on Furious Ned. And it could doom us here as well. Ravax, my dear friend, Kong replied patiently, I don't dismiss your concerns, but you underestimate our strength, while greatly overestimating theirs. He shook his head. Did you not hear what Dot promised us? 13 Lucrehulks. 13! With twice as many munificent frigates as escorts. And that is merely the Trade Federation's contribution. He turned back to his desk and activated a holographic display. Symbols flared to life. Fleets, sigils, promises of force pledged in Rune's defense. The Techno-Union will send several bulwarks. The banking clan, its own fleet of munificence. Even Joksam the Hutt. Kong scoffed. That bloated slug has committed his personal armada. He fixed Ravax with a sharp look. And that doesn't include Xylok's forces, my own defense fleet and your rivers, or whatever additional reinforcements I secure before the deadline. He gestured broadly at the display. We will have more than enough firepower to crush any fleet they dare send. And that's before we account for orbital defenses, upgraded city shields, and hired mercenaries. Kong shook his head, almost amused. The Tau have no chance. His voice hardened. If they retreat once they see what awaits them, good. If not, they will suffer a decisive defeat, and should they land on the surface by some miracle... Kong smiled coldly. Only death will await them. Ravax started, but never finished the sentence. Kong smacked his open palm against the desk, cutting him off. Enough of this paranoia, Ravax! One defeat, and you speak as if you are already dead and buried. He stepped closer and placed a firm hand on the Trandoshan's shoulder. When the time comes, I will need your rivers to defend Rune, and after our victory, you will lead the raids into Tau territory, bring wealth and slaves beyond count to my doorstep. We will be richer and more powerful than we ever dared to imagine. Ravax stayed silent for a moment, his gaze shifting between Kong and the undeniably impressive list of forces already pledged to the Rune's defense. At last, he nodded. Very well, you will have my support, he said quietly. I will summon additional forces from Scarif. With Vroza captured, the location is likely compromised anyway. He exhaled slowly. His betrayal, of all things, that was the one thing I never expected. Kong inclined his head. In truth, neither had he. Perhaps capture finally broke him. Kong mused. He had never been defeated this badly, never taken alive. In your culture, that kind of shame is nearly impossible to raise. Everyone has a breaking point, even someone as ruthless as Vrozak. He waved a hand dismissively. And don't worry too much about Scarif. The Tau want Rune, not some forgotten outpost. With the forces already pledged, you won't need to commit much of your own army anyway. Leave most of them to defend what is yours. Ravax considered that, then nodded again. Even if I deployed every droid I possess, it would be pale in comparison to what the corporations are fielding, he admitted. Very well. I will review our current defenses and see what can be improved. If the Tau dare to come here,
they will bleed for it.
Kong nodded and left Ravax to his work. He stepped out onto the balcony and drew in a breath of fresh air. From here he could see everything. His fortress clung to the side of a great volcano, the city sprawling beneath it. Its raw, churning power feeding vast geothermal generators that supplied energy to the capital and most of the province. The same power sustained the city's shields and its countless gun batteries. Kong smiled as he looked down upon what was his. Every building, every soul, Rune belonged to him, and he would never surrender it to anyone. Mom, a man in a filthy woodsman outfit stepped into a small chamber. Kira's soul looked up from the holographic map of the region, its shifting icons marking Kong's growing military presence. Convoys on the move, constant air patrols, and several new bases and bastions, established in alarming haste. Multiple resistance cells had already been forced to evacuate. Her own hidden base, buried beneath the hills, was now far closer to one of the new outposts than she liked. She let out a slow breath, steadying herself. "What is it, Cyrek?" she asked, rubbing her temples. "I'm a little busy." "Varlon's back," he replied. "He brought the team sent by the Commonwealth. They want to meet you." Kira stiffened. The grime on her clothes, the dirt in her hair, the sleepless night, all of it vanished as she looked up, her eyes burning with focus. So, they were finally here. "Call my lieutenants, then bring them in," she ordered, straightening. "Go." She checked herself quickly. Dark green and brown clothing concealed a layer of dark green armor beneath. An exceptional piece, supplied by Echo years ago. It could stop a blaster bolt at a close range. Like most of her gear, it was battered and scarred, a testament to years of resistance and survival. As her lieutenants assembled, she saw they were in no better condition. The damaged water system meant no one wasted water on bathing. They were dirty, exhausted, some still wrapped in bandages, fresh scars visible from recent skirmishes. But they were unbroken. She saw it in their eyes. Human, Twi'lek, even Trandoshan, different species, same resolve. Kong would fall. Rune would be free. They stood tall and proud, steady at attention. Whoever the Tau had sent, they would not be met by weakness. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, and the Commonwealth team entered. 5 figures in professional armor, cloaks and camouflage, carrying weapons unlike anything she had seen before, followed by a strange droid, humanoid, heavily plated, with no visible eye or visor. Tau-made, she assumed, as it stepped forward. "You are Kira Sol. These are your lieutenants," the machine said in a voice that caught her completely off guard. It wasn't mechanical. There was emotion there, intensity, something that no ordinary droid should possess. Kira pushed the momentary shock aside and cleared her throat. "I am," she confirmed. "And who exactly are you?" I was told the Commonwealth would send support, but I see only 5 soldiers and a 1 droid. Lancer Team, Commonwealth Special Forces. The droid replied, "We have been deployed as the Vanguard Infiltration Unit. Our task is to assess your capabilities and coordinate operations for the liberation of Rune." It paused. "You may refer to me as Lancer 1. I lead this team." There was a brief moment of silence, and then her lieutenants burst out laughing. They were not friendly laughs.
"Are they taking the piss?" Mateo scoffed. "A droid leading commandos? What a joke."
Theo spat on the floor.
"I told you we shouldn't accept their so-called help. We should just kill them and take their gear." Chelor hissed. "At least they'd be useful."
Kira didn't have time to speak, neither to reprimand her people nor to curse the fools the Commonwealth had sent. Because the instant Chelor's threat left his mouth, the Lancers moved. No, moved wasn't the right word. They simply took action. Absolute stillness became absolute violence. There were 6 lieutenants in the chamber, 8 guards beyond them, 14 fighters, plus Kira herself. 15 against 6. It took the Lancers 4 seconds to neutralize the room. Small black spheres left their hands with perfect precision, bouncing once before discharging violent arcs of electricity. Bodies convulsed and collapsed. 2 guards were hurled into the walls with bone-crushing force, dropping limp and unconscious. Kira felt her weapon torn from her grasp. A blade kissed her throat. One of the humans pinned her wrist in an iron grip, his dark red visor boring into her soul. Yet none of that frightened her the most. It was the droid. Lancer 1 seized Chelor by the throat and lifted him effortlessly off the ground. The Trandoshan roared and fired point blank into the machine chest. Once, twice, again and again. Nothing happened. The shots scorched armor. That was all. 6 shots fired. No reaction. Before the 7th could leave the chamber, the droid crushed the blaster in its grip. 2 seconds later, the doors slammed open. Partisans rushed in, weapons raised. "Move," Lancer said calmly, "and your commanders die." Kira felt her blood freeze at the droid's matter-of-fact tone. This wasn't a bluff. Lancer 1 kept his grip on the Trandoshan. "Threaten me, or my team again," he said calmly, "and I will inform my superiors that the Roan Partisans are not to be trusted. You will be eliminated alongside Kong and all other hostile forces on this planet. Do we understand each other?" Chelor snarled, coughed, then nodded, still baring his teeth.
Yes, we do!
And just like that, the commandos stepped back and holstered their weapons. Those still conscious staggered to their feet, shocked and disoriented. Kira turned on the guards frozen at the entrance, weapons still raised. "By the stars! Lower your guns, you idiots!" she shouted. "They took all of us down in the blink of an eye. Do you really want to test that again?" The outburst snapped them out of it. Weapons lowered. Kira drew a slow breath, and looked back at the droid, now standing at the front of his team, as if nothing had happened. "What? Who are you?" she asked, forcing the tremor from her voice. "I already told you. We are commandos of the Commonwealth," he replied. "I didn't mean your team." Kira stepped closer. "What the hell are you supposed to be? You are not a droid, not a standard one. So, tell me, what are you?" Lancer 1 paused. "I am a war ghost." Kira frowned, glancing at her lieutenants. They shrugged, showing they had no idea what that's supposed to mean. "A what?" she repeated. The machine made a sound that almost resembled a sigh. "Long ago, I was like you, flesh and blood, full of fire, certain of my strength, certain of my skill," he said. "I was called Tinek Yira then, the Unbroken Will. A commando, I served the greater good for decades." He stepped closer. "Then I died." Silence gripped the room. "Killed during an operation to assassinate an Imperial Inquisitor. We did not know he was a radical. We did not know he possessed a creature in his service, something beyond anything we were prepared to face." Kira's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. "My body was recovered, but it could not be saved," Ghost continued. "But my mind could, and so I was remade. My shell of flesh and blood, replaced with one of alloy and electricity." He looked down at her. "I was reborn. I am Chassel Dalith Tash Era, the Enduring Spirit." Kira swallowed hard. "You are saying you are a dead Tau, transferred into a machine?" Tash Era leaned closer, his metal head tilting slightly, almost amused. "Death is an insignificant obstacle to duty." The war ghost answered with unbending confidence. The partisans stared at the six figures in stunned silence. "We may be few," the Enduring Spirit said, turning toward the holomap, "but we walk the path of Monat, the lone warrior. Each of us is an army unto themselves." He gestured to the projection of a local region, Kong's forces continuously on the move. "You now have a war ghost, former Tempestus Scion, ex-inquisitorial stormtroopers, and soldiers trained from birth in the art of war at your disposal." He looked back at Kira. "So, let's get to work." And that's it. Episode 14 is done. I know that people hoped we would jump straight into the battle, but there needs to be a proper build-up, and several characters need to reach certain places. We wouldn't want our grand finale to not include our favorite characters, wouldn't we? Now, a shoutout is in order. Special thanks to two people who given their voices in this episode. Tia Boba, also known as Luffy, took the role of our favorite young psyker, Lina Voss. A friend of the channel, Petra, on another hand, took up role of Beautiful Spider, our delightful water-cast diplomat. Even greater thanks need to be directed to this community, as we just reached 8,000 subscribers, which is incredible. I will be working on a special video where I rant about depths of my hatred directed towards one Star Wars character. Bo-Katan Kryze. And do I have a few words to say about her? I will also be finally moving to the season 3 of your homebrews. Things have been a bit hectic lately, but I'm getting to it, so don't worry, I didn't forget, I just struggle with organizing everything properly. As always, Q&As under this video. Put Q&A on top of a comment, one question per person. Do look through older videos and comments to not ask the same questions that were asked in the past. Those who were enjoying the side content for the series, namely the shorts, now get a chance to drop in some of your own ideas. Put short idea on top of a comment and tell me what you would like to see. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell. If you can, support me through Patreon, I would appreciate it very much. But I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most critical day. Ta-ta!